Hello all, and welcome to a very special review. Why is it a special review? Um, well, because it's something that I don't do very often, something expensive, which, as you know, um, I'm poor. So what is it that we are reviewing? Well, I haven't got the bottle right now. The bottle is in the freezer. I was looking up like the ideal serving temperature, and which was labeled in Celsius, so maybe you can make a guess as to what this is. But honestly, knowing how my channel goes, it's like reviewing Natty Light, 500 views. Reviewing something expensive, 0. But yeah, but I review this because I love this kind of stuff. And what is it? It is a port wine. That is why I am wearing my Portuguese cork hat today. You know, because I'm going to be reviewing a port wine. And so I looked up the ideal serving temperature, and so I stuck it in the freezer maybe about 8 minutes ago, which is not enough to go and get it to the ideal serving temperature. Excuse me. Wait. Oh, there it is. It disappeared for a second. The ideal serving temperature of 16 degrees Celsius to 18 degrees Celsius, because right now it is 78 degrees Fahrenheit, so around 24 degrees Celsius, Hawaii. I I venture, you know. And it's probably a little bit cooler in my apartment, but not cool enough. I want to get as close to ideal serving temperature as possible. You know what I mean? I really do want to make an event out of this because it's not very often that I get to go and have a port wine. And what is the port wine that we are reviewing? Well, just to go and read it off here, it is Taylor Fladgate Late Bottled Vintage Port for 2019 vintage. Now, what does that mean? Late bottled vintage port is basically port that is vintage port, but because they're trying to regulate the amount of vintage port bottles that they put out, um, they like to go and keep it fairly select. Or, on the other hand, some barrels might not meet the highest quality standards that vintage port is supposed to meet. Only 1% of all port wine is vintage port. So there's a lot of port that is not vintage port. And late bottle vintage port is, for whatever reasons, because of either excess production or not meeting the high standards, is kept in the barrels for several years and sold as late bottled vintage port. Now, there are two kinds, and I'm not going to go into it, but in general, it doesn't have to be decanted, it doesn't have to be aged, it can be drank immediately from the bottle. And it doesn't have the exact depth of character that vintage port has. I'm going to be honest here, I've never actually had true vintage port because I'm not wealthy, obviously. A declared bad year, new bottle will still be over $100. A good year that has been aged and is ready to open will be several $1,000s. A bad year that is aged and ready to be open will be several $100s. Um, and there's a lot of like aftermarket bargaining of bottles in the vintage port world. Um, Basically, the creme de la creme of wine geeks, I suppose. Well, not really. I wouldn't say creme de la creme because I think like Bordeaux, aged Bordeaux's are really that. Port wine is more like, hmm, it's definitely a culture in and of itself, a subgenre of wine culture. So if you never had a port wines are fortified wines. They're about 20% ABV thereabouts. This one is 20% ABV. They are sweeter and heavier, and some people call them dessert wines. Yeah, you can have them for dessert, but I kind of find that that if you have them with really sweet stuff, it kind of loses a lot of that character. You want a lighter dessert with a port wine, I find. As opposed to like say like a Madeira, like a Malmsey Madeira, yeah, you can have that with the sweetest treacle that you can find. But port wines don't have as much sugar. So let's go ahead and read about the vintage 2019 here. It's not the exact same that's on the bottle. It's actually longer, but I think it's edifying. Taylor Fladgate were pioneers in the LBV category, developed to satisfy the demand for high quality, ready to drink alternative to vintage port for everyday consumption. Unlike vintage port, which is bottled after only 2 years in wood and ages in the bottle, LBV is bottled after 4 to 6 years and is ready to drink when bottled. Taylor Fladgate continues to lead the LBV category of port worldwide, in spite of the fact that many other shippers now also produce an LBV, late bottled vintage. The wines used to blend Taylor Fladgate LBV were drawn from a reserve of some of the best full-bodied red ports produced at the 2019 harvest, from grapes grown on Taylor Fladgate's own vineyards and on other top properties in Cimacorgo and Douro Superior areas. After a warm and dry period of dormancy, notes on viticultural year and harvest, because they really track that kind of stuff, like the temperature and rainfall kind of determine, how well the grapes grow. After a warm and dry period of dormancy, the vineyard cycle began slightly early with bud burst on 9th of March, about a week ahead of the usual calendar. Overall, the growing season was drier and cooler than average, although the usual April rains were quite heavy, with around 98 millimeters of precipitation as the grapes began to color, at around the usual time in mid-July. Though the ripening season began with high temperatures, the weather in the critical month of August was cooler than average, with some rainfall on the 25th and 26th to balance the ripening of the crop. The relatively cool conditions and absence of peaks of high temperature have translated into the elegance, crisp acidity, and singing fruit that we find in 2019 wines. Harvesting of red grapes in the eastern areas of the Douro began in hot weather on the 4th of September and in Pinhal on the 14th. The crop was perfectly healthy and in excellent condition, although yields were almost a tenth lower than the 10-year average. The wines were attractively aromatic, with a high natural acidity and greater than normal color intensity. Tasting notes. Deep ruby red with vivid purple highlights on the rim. The first impression is of intense woodland fruit with crisp brambly, blackcurrant, and blackberry aromas. The nose has youthful freshness and vigor. The first burst of powerful blackberry fruit, slowly revealing undertones of raspberry and cherry, scents of wild herbs, and discreet warmer notes of licorice and coffee. Although the aromas have a sensuous dimension, this elegant and polished LBV displays the characteristic Taylor definition and restraint. The palate is supported by taut, sinewy, but perfectly integrated tannins and delivers a surge of powerful woodland berry flavors from the outset, which are sustained into the long finish. The character of the 2019 harvest, with its freshness and pure bright fruit, shines through on this wine. As usual, this LBV shares the precision and elegance of the great Taylor Fladgate vintage ports in a more approachable and early drinking style. Bottle should be kept upright, protected from light, and at a cool and constant temperature. Was in my cabinet for a few months. Pairing suggestions. Excellent with fully flavored cheeses, especially blue cheeses such as Stilton or Roquefort. It is also delicious with desserts made with chocolate or berry fruits. I have a little something to nibble on here. Couldn't find any Stilton. More's the pity. But yeah, let's go and pull that out of the refrigerator. I think this is going to be the latest opening I've ever done, but you know, it's a special occasion. Okay, so the glass is chilled. Let's hope it's. Should probably put my drinking glass in there too. Here we go. It's got the date of 1692, which was the founding date of the house, Taylor Fladgate. Let's go and open this up. I love port wine. I love Madeira. I do not get to drink them enough. Ouch. Frick. Got like the metal on these wrappers is kind of sharp sometimes. I'm going to go and peel it back a little bit here and fold it down. Okay. Let's go and... Oh. Okay. There's another one. Let's go and cut that. There we go. No wonder I was struggling there. Silly, silly me. Okay. Yes, much easier now. Ooh, that's rich. I don't have a proper port glass. I'm sorry to say. Look at that. There's a beautiful, deep ruby red. Almost purple. More than ruby. It's almost purple. No, it is not almost purple. It is deep purple. Those thick legs. Very viscous. Oh my goodness. It doesn't smell like a sweet wine at all. It smells like an intense red. But yeah, definitely black currant, blackberries, cherries, herbs. Can definitely smell some of that oak there too. Licorice. Oh my goodness, this is so aromatic. Okay. Let's have a sip, shall we? Salud. Is salud the toasting in Portuguese? I don't know. It's kind of shameful because I'm actually part Portuguese. Oh. Oh my. I have my water here. That is intense. By the way, this bottle costs a little over $30. There is strong acidity to it. It's just perfectly balanced by the sugars. So the perception is of sweetness on your tongue, but there is such a depth of flavor there. I.e., the exact opposite of cloying. Yeah. Black currants, blackberries up front. In that long finish, woodiness. Also, just a very subtle, lasting sweetness there. Underneath that fruit, wood, gentle herbaceousness. Some savory aspects as well. I'm not really getting coffee on the palate, but oddly enough, a little bit in the top note, like light roasted coffee. Oh, oh, wow. Also, I'm getting a little bit of tobacco notes as well. Cavendish tobacco. And top note is so rich. You can just kind of like swish the air around in your mouth and get like, after you swallow and just kind of get flavor notes out of it. Absolutely zero booziness. No booziness whatsoever. No heat. Wow. Water to clear the palate. Ooh. You ever been, I'm just enjoying this. The word they use in the description, sensuous, definitely, definitely is appropriate in this context. It is just a tidal wave of flavor. And not just that, you know, it's so aromatic that it overpowers the sense of smell, and the thickness is almost silken on the tongue. I am, once I go and Um, I don't have, I don't have, you know, Stilton, but I do have some caraway cheddar. And I feel this is an appropriate time. You can see here. It's got herbs in it, caraway and some other herbs. I only can really recognize a caraway. Mm. Mm. Yeah, a little bit too soft flavored for this wine compared to like a Stilton. Oh, but man, just the texture wise of the with that fattiness of the cheese being dissolved by the wine. It's bringing out more of the herbal aspects of the wine as well. Yeah, wow. I might just eat all this cheese with it. Yeah, I opened it a while back. Um, You'd probably hate what I made a grilled cheese, open faced grilled cheese sandwich out of it because I thought it would taste good. Okay. Mm, mm, mm. Oh, something about the fat and the cheese and the acidity of the wine. It just takes it to a whole nother level. I mean, wow. Okay, I'm gonna pour myself out a little bit more. Then I'm gonna put this bottle in the refrigerator to savor for later because wowie kazowie, man, this is some good stuff. Just want to have a little bit more. Have finish the cheese off here. And I have to tell you, whew, wow. Just wow. Let's go and clear the palate. So yeah, I've seen this. It's listed as about $23.49 on like the websites. Obviously, about $10 more on the shelf here in Hawaii. Um, it's probably, I know there is more than one person outside Hawaii that watches this. Probably pretty upset, pretty expensive in Australia because all alcohol is expensive in Australia, and surprisingly affordable in Japan. When I lived in Japan, I was just surprised how affordable port wine and Madeira was there, and also how available it was there. I didn't exactly live in a cosmopolitan metropolis. I lived, um, you know, um, in a factory town, a car factory town, where the biggest attraction was the large racetrack that was literally just down the road from where I lived. Well, up the road because it was uphill. But, you know, the liquor store there was surprisingly well stocked. And also, oddly enough, the grocery store had port wine for sale, good port wine for sale. Not vintage port, but, this kind of stuff, tawny ports, um, ruby ports, and whatnot. So I really enjoyed it, along with the sake, because sake was probably the most affordable, after beer, of course. I should have started doing reviews back then, 2008. I mean, YouTube was already around. Now, what can I say about this? 100% go and try this. It is amazeballs, as the kids say. Not really the kids. I mean, that's more like late 20 somethings at this point. It kind of fell out of like usage. Late millennial. It's a late millennial term. Late millennial, early Zoomer term. But yeah, wow. Taylor Fladgate, late bottled vintage Porto, 2019. I mean, if it's still available in Hawaii, it's probably still available in the rest of the world. And that, folks, is your late bottled vintage port review. I have a few beers I need to review, but yeah, like I said in earlier reviews, I'm cutting back on my alcohol consumption, because I'm pretty much 99% sure I'm going to be starting a new job soon. So I'm going to be busy. That's all. I'm not going to explain what it is I'm going to be doing, but um, it's different from what I do right now. Thank God. Uh, but that's also part of the reason why I decided to go and crack this open right now. I'm still going to try to hit at least one review a week. Uh, I might miss a few weeks, but yeah, I'm going to be a lot more busy. And also, too, work's just going to demand more of my time and energy. So, yeah, that was your port wine review for this afternoon, folks. Cheers.